Superman flew across the skies of this strange but magnificent land, eyes and ears ready in case he was needed. He had decided to go to the section of the continent with the giant volcano. He had a history of having to stop volcanoes, so he expected the same from this place. As he glided on an air current, he heard something that sounded like a bunch of teens laughing and something crying. He screeched to a stop and started to scan the area with his X-ray vision, looking for the source of the one in distress. What he saw caused him to raise an eyebrow and frown. What looked like a group of small dragons had encircled a pony and seemed to be bullying it. He shook his head at their juvenile antics and descended onto the scene. "You ponies think you're so much better than us, don't you?" the tallest of the group said with a sneer to the shivering pony. The pony closed her eyes and curled up into a ball, trying to look as small as possible. The other three laughed at her and started to kick dirt onto her. "You all think that princess of yours is so great. Well, if she's so great, where is she?" the red dragon asked. The pony whimpered and tried to back up, but a purple dragon with blonde hair blocked her path. "He asked you a question," he said with his stupid voice, pushing the pony back into the circle of dragons. They all started to laugh again, closing in on her. "That's enough!" The dragons and the pony all looked up at the voice, where their jaws proceeded to go straight to the ground. Superman hovered about 10 feet above them, arms crossed and a stern look on his face. The dragons backed up as he landed in the center of their circle, right in front of the pony. Who are you?" the red dragon asked. Superman narrowed his eyes, choosing not to answer. The dragon looked around at his friends, and seeing as they outnumbered the stranger, he gained back some of his courage. "Well, whichever you are, you picked the wrong dragons to mess with," he said with a grin, stepping forward to glare at Superman. "So, what do you want?" "Apologize," Superman told them. They all looked at him in confusion before looking at each other. After a few seconds, the dragons burst out laughing. They started to circle Superman while the pony hid behind the Man of Steel, placing him between her and the dragons. "You can't tell us what to do," the red one said with a snarl. The others chuckled and watched as their leader walked right up to Superman, cracking his knuckles. Superman just watched as the dragon brought his fist back and slammed it right into the red S on Superman's chest. Crack! The dragon howled in pain as his fist shattered on Superman's costume. The Man of Steel smiled as he watched the dragon run back and forth, crying like a child. His friends chased after him, trying to help the best they could. After they had spent a minute tending to the wound, the leader of the gang glared at Superman and marched up to him. "You think you're funny, do ya? Wearing armor under that abdomen of an outfit. Well, I'll show you how I deal with wise guys." Even though he was a full foot smaller than Superman, he didn't seem intimidated at all. The dragon inhaled deeply and exhaled a torrent of flames into Superman's face. The pony gasped as her protector's head was set ablaze by the dragon, who was now laughing along with the rest of his gang. "Ha! What do you think of that, freak?" the red dragon asked Superman, still laughing at his burning face. "I think," Superman began, wiping the fire off his face, as if it were water, "that you need a breath mint." The dragons all backed up as Superman finished brushing the fire off of his suit. "Now, about that apology," Superman asked when he had finished with the fire. The leader of the dragons used whatever courage he had left to order one last attack. "Let's get 'em all together," he yelled to his friends. They all inhaled, preparing to unleash a firestorm. But before they could even light a spark, Superman exhaled and unleashed his Arctic breath upon the dragons. They were instantly frozen solid, except for their heads, which Superman had purposely left thawed. What are you gonna do to us? The dragon leader panicked as he and his buddies tried to break the ice. Arctic breath. Figured you and your friends needed a moment to cool off. Now then, why were you bothering this pony? Superman asked with a stern glare. The leader sneered. Why should we tell you? Because if you don't, you'll be dragon sickles for maybe a few hours. Also, he said softly, changing his tone a bit, not telling would upset me. Superman smiled inwardly as he saw their pupils shrink in fear and their tough demeanor started to crack. He didn't like having to use Bruce's techniques, but they really worked well on stubborn people. Or dragons. Okay, we were picking on her because all the ponies think they're so much better than us. We just wanted to show her that they weren't, one of them said, hanging his head.
Yeah, they act all superior and treat us like garbage,
the blonde one said. They may be mean to you, but that doesn't mean you should go picking on them, Superman said sternly. He turned to look at the pony, still hiding behind him. You weren't teasing them, were you? The pony shook her head back and forth quickly. Now then, Superman began, turning back to the dragons. What do you say? We're sorry, they mumbled. Superman figured that was the best he was going to get out of them, so it was time to let them go. He narrowed his eyes and beams of heat lanced out, melting the ice in which he had entrapped them. The dragons became even more terrified as they watched him slice through the ice with his vision alone. The moment they were free, they all flapped their wings and flew away as fast as they could. Superman chuckled and turned back to the pony that he had rescued. She was a regular pony with a reddish mane and a rose on her side. She had a saddlebag that, when Superman used his X-ray, contained volcanic soil. She glanced up nervously at him with a smile. Thanks, she said awkwardly. Superman gave her one of his smiles and knelt down to get to her level. Not a problem, miss. Roseluck, the pony finished for him. Her name was Roseluck? He could have guessed that. Well then, Miss Roseluck, what were you doing in a dangerous part of the world like this by yourself, if you don't mind me asking? Superman knew the reason she was here. That volcanic soil was to help her roses, which he assumed she grew. What he wanted to see was her reaction to him. He had just flattened 4 teenage dragons without breaking a sweat. That would be terrifying to some species that were more advanced than these ponies. Well, the gardener's competition was coming up, so I figured I'd need an edge in the competition to win. After all, Applejack and her family take really good care of their... One moment, Superman said, cutting her off. He turned around and waited a few seconds, just as he had expected. A massive dragon landed right in front of him. He had heard its wing beats from a mile away with ease, but he had been hoping that it wasn't there to bother him. Clearly, he was wrong. Can I help you? He asked while Roseluck hid behind his legs again. The dragon snarled at him and rose to its full height, towering over the two. It let out a roar that shook the earth beneath them. Roseluck cowered behind Superman's legs with a whimper, whereas Superman just raised an eyebrow. All right, what do you want? Superman asked, a bit annoyed. The dragon sneered and bent over to look at Superman. You're the one who attacked my son, the dragon snarled. Roseluck's eyes went wide as she realized who this one was. You're the leader of the dragons here, she said in a whisper. The massive dragon nodded and breathed out a column of smoke onto the two. Roseluck started to cough, but Superman was unfazed. If you're talking about that jerk of a bully dragon who attacked this pony here, then I only dissuade your son from bothering this pony. Roseluck gasped as the dragon's eyes narrowed dangerously. No pony talks about my son like that.